so I wouldn't say I was too familiar with Makoto Shinkai movies. I mean, the only film I watched from him was Your Name back in 2020, and I remember it just like it was yesterday, as it was a couple of weeks into lockdown and I was at home with no job and emotionally vulnerable as I was scrolling through Netflix until I came across an anime film that I did not expect to watch. An hour and a half later, I was tearing up at a hopeful story about changing destiny to save the one you love, and in those dark times, that film was a ray of light to get me through. And then I watched Evangelion. Joking aside, I really enjoyed it despite the flaws, and I've been meaning to watch more of his films, so I figured, why not give Suzume a go? So to give a rundown for those who don't know, Suzume tells the story of the titular character who meets Soda Murukata, an aloof student from Tokyo who asks if there are any ruins in the village. Suzume shows Sota the way, but unfortunately, her curiosity grows wild as she enters the ruins only to find a door. Initially she pays it no mind, but during a class she sees an apparition appear, and realizing where it was coming from, she rushes over to see Soda trying to close the door. So Suzume helps him and the two manage to lock the door, but things turn for the worse as the keystone that guards the creature appears and seemingly turns Soda into a children's chair.
Goodbye.
And because of this, Soda can't close the doors and must rely on Suzume to go through the Japanese countryside while chasing the keystone cat who has been given the name Daijo. Yeah, the story follows a hero's journey as Suzume leaves her home to complete a quest and faces many trials and setbacks as she tries to stop a calamity from happening. And I really enjoyed this because we see Suzume meet new people on her journey. It's something that tickles my fancy since I like it when characters experience new things. And of course, because Soda is a chair, they make a lot of chair jokes and I honestly felt bad for him since they basically objectify the poor guy. You get it? Cause you know, he's an object. Mate, you're gonna have to try better than that. I'm trying, okay? But don't worry, as even in this form, Soda is an intriguing character as we learn more about him on the journey. Speaking of characters, Suzume is incredibly well done, as one of the things I noticed with Your Name was how in depth the characters were, since you get a feel of who they are, and seeing their emotional development was incredibly poignant. And Suzume is no different, as she and Soda's relationship develops really well as they learn to rely on each other, which eventually turns into a close bond as they develop feelings for one another. Although it doesn't really hit that swing until the end, which I quite like because of course the calamity remained a priority for the most part, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be all lovey-dovey. But man, the characters were so well done. I didn't expect to care about these guys as much as I did. It got to a point where I found myself tearing up because I was really invested in these characters. I didn't expect it to affect me as much as it did, and it shows the skill of the creator to be able to make a story jam-packed with emotion that you fully buy into and feel what the characters feel. Not a lot of stories can do that, and I can happily add Suzume to that list. Alright, what do we have here? We have Your Name, Your Line April, Made in Abyss. We don't talk about that. However, that's not to say it's perfect, as even the most emotionally driven stories have their holes, and unfortunately, Suzume is no different. So let's start with the progression in the story, as the first and second act were terrific. I loved how the story flowed from each scene, but unfortunately, the third act of the film just wasn't as good as the first two. It was weird because I didn't hate the third act, but I felt the story was suffering from a bit of padding. It didn't have the feel or tension from the first two acts due to certain spoilers, and it was supposed to be this huge game changer for Suzume, but to me it felt like it was being stretched out as they resolved plot points with other characters, but this takes way longer than it needed to, which again felt like padding. But we eventually get past it and the film finally picks up again. Other things I had issues with were the cat, since I didn't really understand why Daijo did what he did, as the events kick off when the cats run away from Suzume, which in turn causes the creature to try to destroy the world. But I found the reasoning for why he won't return to being a keystone a bit weak, because the film had this huge plot twist for the reasoning, and if I'm honest, I didn't like it. I get it adds to the mystery of these characters, as I was thinking maybe they were tired of being protectors, which makes sense, but with the reason given in the film, I didn't get the hostility and cheekiness the cat portrayed, and for some reason that just bugs me, especially near the end when the cat rarely has any lines, It is unfortunate because despite these issues, the film really hit me in the feels, and even though I had issues with the movie, I can still cry like a baby to it, since I don't really care about finding a flawless film anymore. Instead, I care about if it leaves an impression, and Suzume absolutely does this. So if you're not a fan of emotionally driven slice of life stories with a bit of romance, or you don't like bloated storytelling, then this might not be for you. But if you want a beautiful story that will bring you to tears, then this is a contender, cause Suzume has definitely got some. No.